Now, moving on, Donald Trump has also said that he believes Russia's President Putin wants to end the Ukraine war despite inconclusive talks in Moscow, as US officials prepare for a follow-up meeting with Kyiv's top negotiator. This comes as President Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff and son-in-law Jared Kushner huddled in the early hours with Putin in Kremlin, but reached no breakthrough on halting Europe's worst conflict since World War II, Russia-Ukraine war. Now, following the Moscow meeting, US officials are now scheduled to meet with Ukraine's top negotiator Rustem Umerov in Florida. And joining us in this discussion is Adrian Calamel, who's a scholar on terrorism. Joins us live from New York. Thank you, Mr. Calamel, for joining us here at NewsX World. Appreciate you giving us your time. Crucial here that questions will be raised on the statements that are coming from Trump. Says that Putin wants to end the war when talks are inconclusive, when Russia and Ukraine keep striking each other's power facilities. Why would Trump make that remark at this time?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show, and good evening to yourself, Kriti, and all your viewers. Why would Trump make a statement like that? He has been making statements like this, well, since before he got elected. Well, right when he got elected, he thought he thought Putin wanted peace, and this is a consistent messaging that's come from Trump. I think patience has worn thin over times, but now we're at this place again where he says he believes Putin wants some type of end to the war. And the only reason why I would say that Putin would want some end to the war is just because he's been at this for a very long time now. If you just take away the Ukraine conflict, if you really want to look at his time in leadership, he's been in constant war since basically 1999. You look at the Second Chechen War, you look at Georgia, you look at the first Ukraine and Crimea, that's 2014 to 2022. They have a manpower problem, and they also have a firepower problem, which they didn't have in the past. Now, on the flip side of this, Putin, if you look at the actions, that's not a person who wants peace. But in terms of what he's playing with right now may dictate that he does need to draw some type of ceasefire or draw some type of lines. The other conclusion that I would reach is that I look at Putin and I see a person who, he may be inching towards a deal, but he's always going to work towards the most favorable deal for him after all the things that have already gone on. So you look at this most recent aggression in Ukraine, full-scale invasion. Part of the end deal, any type of end deal, is him going to be retaining some of these areas that he's invaded. In the first invasion, 2014, he took probably the most industrialized parts of the Ukraine. So Putin, he's I don't trust him. I don't think Trump should trust him. I don't think anybody should trust him. My fear is also that if this does come to some type of resolution, what's he going to do? Is he going to wait a couple of years and then pivot around and maybe go after Estonia, Lithuania, maybe probe one of the NATO countries, see what happens then?
Adrian, I also want to take this up with you now. Russia is continuing to advance in eastern Ukraine, and in fact, it appears now that terms of the plan that some say are favored towards Russia are because of its recent, progresses in the Ukrainian territory. But despite that and Trump's statement, Putin has said that parts of the plan are unacceptable to it. So clearly, the deal is far from finalizing, as Trump seems to claim. Now, Putin is also in India, and Prime Minister Modi is likely going to be pressuring him once again to arrive at peace. But what should we expect from Putin amid all this happening, all these events happening? Is Putin any likely to concede?
I don't think he is likely to concede. There's certain things that have already been established that are not, Ukraine's not going to get, and those were red lines for Putin. I think it's more bluster than anything, but no NATO membership, one being one of them. There are a number of things that kind of strips away the defense of Ukraine that Putin's already achieved. You know, there, he understands weakness, and when he sees weakness, it's when he advances. And we've seen this stalling out, possible peace talks, but he's kept up the campaign. What he also understands, and what Russians understand, is American firepower. And that's been a big problem about this war from the very beginning, is about the way it's been prosecuted, especially from the Western side. It's been this drip of slowly defensive weapons, and then, you know, really debating whether to put offensive type weapons into the battlefield. Putin, as I said before, he has he now has a firepower issue, which was not the case in the past. And he's having to deal with it in bringing ballistic missiles up from the Islamic Republic, which also took a beating during the 12-day war and their stockpiles. So if there's multiple things, I can see this going one of three ways. If the U.S. and the West really wants to bring this to a conclusion, I don't see it going this way. It's saying, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to introduce this. We're going to fight this like a real war. Then Putin starts to say, all right, we're going to back down. It's people claim World War III is happening, but no. I've heard that claim multiple times. The other option is Putin gets what he wants, and the compromise is all on the Ukraine's part. They lose territory. They lose, you know, they are the big losers in this. And then the final outcome, the other one is, and I just don't see it happen, some type of equitable outcome where both sides win and both sides lose to a certain degree. One that Zelensky agrees to and one that Putin agrees to. I just can't see him ever reaching that point. Maybe we will. I don't like to bet against Trump because he's able to get things done in different ways than a lot of people, in different methods and ways, and that make things possible. But you know, we just have to look at Vladimir Putin and the person who he is and what he's done with Russia. And it's been an expansionist policy within his own territory and then outside his territory. And I think he continues to look at restoring parts of the Soviet Empire, which he calls the greatest calamity, the collapse, the greatest calamity of the 20th century. That's his vision. That's his mindset. That's who he is.
All right. Well, sure. I would thank you for your comment there and also request you to stay on as there are some